control of armies from the 5 kingdoms of Arcania and vie for the throne of the ancient king in Wrath of Kings. Master your skills on the battlefield over on beastofwar.com. Anime cyberpunk style meets skirmish combat in Infinity. Experience 8 high-tech factions and fight to control the human sphere at the Infinity Hub on beastofwar.com.
I'm Warren, a huge fan of tabletop games. But few games out there have a story so deep as Warhammer 40k. I'm setting out to explore this vast universe and the game with my trusty guide, AJ. So join us on Warhammer 40k Charted. Good morning, happy Monday. It's time for 40k Charted. AJ, where in the Imperium are you taking me today? Enlighten me.
Okay, today I want to take a look at the Inquisitorial Henchmen.
Inquisitorial Henchmen.
This is a little unit. It's been kicking around for a good while now.
Which book's that in?
It's actually in the Inquisition Codex currently. But it kind of came out in the original Grey Knight Codex, the original Demon Hunter Codex.
Yeah.
Late in 3rd edition. So it's a unit that's kind of been around for a long time.
Who are they?
So each Inquisitor, kind of when he's out roaming the universe, kind of doing his Inquisition things, kind of collects to him this mishmash group of kind of henchmen. Henchmen. There's no other kind of word for it. And basically what it is each one has kind of its own set of skills that is useful to the Inquisitor. For example, Inquisitor Ravener in the Ravener books, he had one henchman that was a psychic blank, so he had no psychic presence in the warp. He, and he actually stopped psychic abilities around him. So in actual fact, he was very useful to the.
So created a bubble of.
He was very useful because it stopped kind of psychic attacks coming into the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of these different kind of henchmen, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to look at this. Is just because it's a unit that you can kind of create their own theme, and
it does sound
and their own kind of
very narrative-y to me. So the Inquisition, right? I've seen a cool website. We covered them in an early episode of 40k Charted. If you remember, where there was the little company out there doing the cool Inquisition cars,
the
like
limousines,
Batmobiles and stuff like that there. So I can see having an Inquisition unit with their own cool car, their own cool transport, just driving around the place, doing its thing, and getting out. And obviously the unit would go, "We didn't expect that," and then blah blah blah. You know where I'm going with that, but. I've got some basic questions. Let me get the basics out of the way. So it's in the Inquisition book. Yeah. Can you take it as an ally?
You can take it as an ally.
Who do they ally well with?
Any of the Imperium. It's quite an interesting codex because it was one of the first codexes that didn't come out with troops and fast attack and heavy support and all those kind of different options. In actual fact, it came out with all you need to take is an Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And that's your standard troop. That's your standard sort of selection. Then you can take up to 3 of these Inquisitorial Henchmen squads, and an extra Inquisitor. So you can take up to 2 Inquisitors
and 6 squads,
and 3 squads of these.
Or 3 squads of these guys, and that's your basic.
And that's your kind of force organization template.
So what's the minimum that I could take then as an ally if I was bringing them in as an ally?
Just one Inquisitor.
Just one Inquisitor. Yeah. But if I wanted to do an Inquisitor with his henchmen.
With the henchmen.
And can he only have 3 henchmen, or can he have more than 3 henchmen?
He can have 3 squads of henchmen.
Oh, and how many men are in a squad?
A maximum of 15. It starts.
Oh my word!
So
it's loads.
It's loads. He can have loads of henchmen.
Right.
And it's 3 to 15. So he starts with a minimum of 3 and goes up to a maximum of 15. Right. So it's quite a customizable unit.
From a painting perspective, this is lovely because you can do each of these guys very individual and create Because let's be honest, you know, as fun as it is to create your bog standard or even non-standard Imperium armies, right? It's hard for a lot of us to get it to be really, really narrative. Even if you create your own Space Marine chapters and stuff like that, yeah, there's a load of stuff you can do. But when you're doing it across an entire army, it still looks kind of like Space Marines and stuff. So to build up a little Inquisitor unit that you get to use in your games over and over again, you know, they appear and stuff like that there. It adds a lovely, lovely bit of variety to the game. At least in my mind, it's adding variety already. So.
What I love about it, and I'm sure some of the older collectors would like this as well, is it allows you to use miniatures that you previously had very little use for. I had a load of Necromunda guys sitting around. I didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And I put them in my henchman squads. So I was able to kind of use this eclectic mix of miniatures from miniatures that I picked up just because I really liked the look of it, and I'd never found the rule set for it to fit in.
So if I even went out and picked up some weird, just conglomerate of strange miniatures and stuff that were out there, I could, in theory, repurpose them as a henchman or a henchman. Yeah. How do they work with the likes of aliens and stuff like that? You know, would they have an alien henchman? If he was useful enough, I would imagine they would.
This is it. The Inquisition kind of have free reign to do everything. I mean, we know about the Inquisition that there are some that have very dubious, you know, kind of opinions.
Yeah.
You know, Inquisitor Sevax was one of the few non-Eldar ever to be let into the Black Library, for example.
Yeah.
He shortly after that disappeared. But there you go. So there is these kind of people out there that there's these Inquisitors out there who would just use anything. So certainly aliens would be an option. I've seen people use squats, find a way to repurpose their old squats into their henchmen. You know, so you could anything that's available to them. One of the units, in actual fact, is a Daemonhost. One of the types of henchmen that you can use.
Well, can you take me on a tour through the henchmen so I can get a feel for what my options are? And if you don't mind, I may be thinking of alternatives while you're doing it. So.
Okay. So the basic henchman is the Acolyte.
Yeah.
This is kind of the Acolyte is kind of studying under the Inquisitor. This can be anything from an Imperial Guardsman.
Yeah.
You know, kind of a trainee Inquisitor. Anything like that there. They can be a weapons expert, a close combat expert, anything in between.
Could they be a Space Marine?
Yeah, they could be a Space Marine. In actual fact, you can upgrade these guys with power armor. They're maybe not as good as Space Marine. They've only got ballistic skill 3.
But I mean, from a model perspective.
But from a model perspective,
if I had a Space Marine who had psychic abilities or something like that the Inquisitor wanted, the Inquisitor could take him under his wing and say, you're now an acolyte of mine. And he might still wear his power armor. It might be repainted, but he might still keep the sigil or the troop the markings of his old chapter or something like that, possibly.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, they're
Feel free to jump into the comments on all of these, by the way, because I want as many ideas as possible for interesting things that can be a henchman.
I mean, the acolytes can be just civilians.
Yeah.
That have kind of latched on to the Inquisitor or ended up tied into the Inquisitor's plot. It can be a whole diverse range of things. That the acolyte can be. He can be upgraded to carapace armor, so he can have a 4-up save. He can also be upgraded to, as we said, power armor as well. So again, like, you can pretty much do anything with just the acolyte.
Yeah.
We've got the Arco Flatulent next, and the Arco Flatulent is kind of it's.
Oh, look at that!
This comes from the kind of witch huntery side of the Inquisition.
Yes.
They actually used to be a part of the old witch hunter army book. As you can see, they're kind of armed with these Arco flails.
Yeah.
Kind of for beating all around them and probably flagellating themselves with.
Yeah.
And basically these guys are.
And they're wearing hoods, obviously, so they don't go blind.
These guys are previous kind of convicts.
Yeah.
So they've done wrong, particularly done wrong by the Inquisitor. Sometimes they're lobotomized, a bit like servitors. But basically they're out and they're kind of drugged and they.
I am at an utter loss as to what other option you could use for that. I was thinking that on some ranges, you sometimes see female characters and things like that with whips and stuff like that. Might be a little bit S&M, I suppose, but you know, it's but to try and match the weapon types, you know, maybe some kind of whippy characters or something like that would be an option. Are they an old model? They're not a particularly attractive looking model.
No, they are quite old nowadays. They probably came out around the same time as the Witch Hunter Codex, which I think was early 4th edition. So we're probably talking a good 10 and 12 years ago.
Yeah.
In actual fact, but they've just kind of been repurposed for the henchmen.
I know they're supposed to be disgusting, but there is something quite disgusting about those models.
Yeah, they are quite disgusting. They kind of came around the same time as the Penitent Engine and Sisters Repentia and those kind of things.
Okay.
So the next one that
how would you use these guys?
These guys are kind of close combat oriented.
Get them in close combat.
Get them in close and
cut them up. Okay, right.
Use them. The next one we'll talk about is the Daemonhost. And the Daemonhost again.
Oh.
What has happened to the Daemonhost is a psyker that maybe hasn't known it's been a psyker.
Yeah.
It's maybe someone who's been trying to maybe a chaos cultist, something like that there.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've tried to manifest a demon. The Inquisitor has known this and has captured this person and locked them up in these kind of mystical chains. Chains that have kind of maybe been cast wards upon. So as that demon manifests, it's trapped within the physical body of the human or other.
So it's a demon that has basically been captured enslaved inside all these chains and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of funky.
But still within the original host body. Sometimes it's done purposefully. Sometimes the host didn't even know it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's so it can happen for a whole host of reasons.
This gives me some real food for thought on terms of conversions, where you could take a kind of a demonic model and then just apply the chains, and you could have chains, ropes, big shackles and things like that.
Yeah.
That looks like an option to create a very kind of custom model for that. Oh, yeah. What does he do, though, or what does this do?
So he kind of has a bit of his rules-wise, it's a bit random. Fluff-wise, the Inquisitor can sometimes use the Daemonhost for information. You can sort of glean information out of the Daemonhost for potential chaos threats, things like that there. Find out about demon lore.
Yeah.
But in game, it's kind of a bit random. You roll at the start of each turn. You actually roll on a chart. It's just a d6. I'll read it out here for you. And they basically manifest the demon power.
Yeah.
On a 1, you reknit the host form, so he gets feel no pain. Now it's not the unit that gets it, but it's just
the Inquisitor.
Just the demon.
Just the demon himself.
The demon host. Yeah. On a 2, it's warp grasp. So in assault phase, can use the following profile. So it's range, nothing, strength as user, which is strength 4, but it's AP 2 melee attack. So he basically gets kind of all his combat attacks are AP 2. On a 3, it's demonic speed. The demon host gains fleet special rule, and their initiative increases to 10. So pretty quick in assault. Number 4 is warp strength, which means that he goes to strength 6. So these first 4 are kind of quite combat driven.
Yeah.
And then 5 and 6 are a little bit different. 5 and 6 go to demon energy torrent. So he gets a shooting attack, which is strength 4, AP 3, assault 1, blast, range 24. That's not too bad.
That's not bad, yeah.
Or he can have unholy gaze on a 6, which is strength 8, AP 4, 24-inch range, assault 1. So he's a bit random.
Yeah.
But he's actually only 10 points. So for that random...
Could you stick a few of them in?
You can stick a couple in, yeah. Yeah. And you just roll...
So if I had an Inquisitor with, say, a squad of 10 of these guys, all doing weird random stuff, and his whole thing, this whole Inquisitor's thing is he loves capturing demons. And he has this host of captured demons behind him, and he's kind of sending them forward to do stuff. It's kind of horrific, really, isn't it?
It is
I'm getting a real kind of Van Helsing vibe of the Inquisitors now.
There is a bit, yeah. So that guy's he's quite an interesting, quirky, and quite fluffy unit, particularly for an Ordo Malleus or a Demon Hunter Inquisitor.
Yeah. I really want to I'm sorry, I'm loving this. Do you know what? If you had, it's easy to be like the monsters. You know, if you had one of these cool gothic kind of corpse carts almost.
Oh yeah.
And he's
like a hearse.
He's riding along in a stretched hearse with him at the front going, yeah. And then at the back is all these demons all shoved into the back, and then he parks up, and then he opens the back doors, and they come flooding out, and then he just unleashes the demons, the storm. How fluffy is that? And especially when you have no idea whatsoever what any of them are going to do.
No idea.
It's just complete randomness in the middle of the tabletop. And do you roll once per game for what they do, or once per turn?
You roll at the start of each turn.
Oh, so they're doing different things all over the place.
Yeah.
It's so crap. It could be brilliant. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. How do you top that? That's my new number one. Yeah.
So we'll take it down a peg, and we'll go to the old servitors.
Yes.
Now again, this is quite a standard option. A lot of armies get these. The Space Marines get them, Guard get them, Adeptus Mechanicus get different versions of them.
Yeah.
But the reason why they're really good in the Inquisitorial Henchmen is that they're really cheap.
Right.
So
how cheap?
It's 10 points to get one with a heavy bolter.
Right.
And it's the same.
I can start to see why these 3 squads of 15 start to look, tasty now. Yeah.
It's the same amount of points for a multi-melta.
10 points.
10 points for a guy with a multi-melta, and it's 20 for the plasma cannon. So which is
the multi-melted
dirt
sounds
cheap.
Good to me.
I like the plasma. The reason I like the plasma so much is mainly because we would like to. I think you can have a maximum of 2 guys with a heavy weapon.
All right. Okay. Per squad.
Per squad.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you team them up with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, I know this guy. This is the Jakara weaponsmith.
That's the one. Yeah.
This is Space Monkey. I like him.
This is Space Monkey.
And he even goes. Okay.
The reason why it's quite good to team up with this guy, your heavy weapons, even the heavy bolters are quite good to get with him. But the more heavier armament you have with this guy, generally the better. He can kind of manifest his weapon into different types of 40k weapon.
Yeah.
So he can use his digits to create a las cannon.
Yeah.
A multi-melta.
He fires lasers out of his fingers.
He fires lasers, yeah.
Right.
He can use it as a las cannon. He can use it as a multi-melta, or he can use it as a heavy flamer. If you take multiple in a squad, they have to use the same weapon. So
how many points is this guy?
He's quite expensive. He's 35.
All right. Okay. So he's not 10 points. So
He's not
15. Wild monkey men all charging forward.
He is 35 points, but he does give the squad quite a good little benefit.
And what's that?
He has these rules called inconceivable customization. So again, it's a random chart.
Okay.
But on a D6, and this is once per game.
This is all right. This is once per game.
This is once per game at the start of the game.
Per model.
Once per game. You can only roll once on per squad.
Per squad, okay.
But you get +1 to your roll if you have extra. So if you had 2, you would get an extra +1.
So clearly this is a chart that's going to get better as we get up the numbers, right? Yeah. Okay. So what's the worst that we get then?
So the worst thing that you get is nothing happens.
Okay. So on a roll of a 1,
on a roll, it's just he's made the weapons in the squad look a bit prettier.
Right. Okay.
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 On a 2, he's improved the gun sights.
Yep.
All non-template shooting weapons have their maximum range increased by 12. Now that's great for the multi-meltas.
Oh, yes.
That gives them a 36-inch range. And it actually increases their half range, I believe, for their armor bane. So that would actually give you an armor bane range of 18.
That's kind of cool.
So that does make the multi-meltas quite effective.
Kind of cool, yeah. So I can now see 10-point multi-meltas, and this guy, on a roll of a 2.
Roll of a 2.
They become awesome. Right,
on the roll of a 3, you get reinforced armor. Models in the unit treat their armor save as being 1 better.
Okay.
So he gives them +1 to their armor save. If you've taken a lot of Space Marine sort of henchmen with their 3+ bar armor, they now look a lot better.
I tell you what, even just on the roll of the 2 or the 3, he's worth his 35 points, isn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. 4, this is particularly good. It's called Penetrating Ammo. All shooting from the unit has rending. So
rend's on a 6.
That's really, really good. If you've taken your heavy bolters, if you've got your acolytes with storm bolters, all those kind of things, they now are pumping out a lot of shots, and you're going to do a lot of damage. If the Jakara himself has used his heavy flamer, that heavy flamer has rending. Number 5.
Let me just stop you there. For anybody that doesn't know what rending is, put that into perspective for us. So
rending basically, when you roll the hit, you roll the hit as normal. When you roll the wound or armor penetration, if you roll a 6 to wound, all your wounds that roll the 6 count as AP2.
Okay.
Against vehicles, if you rolled a 6, you get an extra D3 to your armor penetration roll. So it means that if you have a strength 5 weapon, you can now get 5 + 6 + D3.
Yeah. Okay.
You know. So it's quite good that way. It's one of the best special rules in the game. In fact.
Yeah.
A lot of people look for misfortune on the divination chart just so that they can apply rending.
Yeah.
It's particularly effective against high toughness enemy units.
Okay.
Number 5 is augmentative energy fields. All models in the unit have a 5+ invuln. So it's pretty good. And number 6.
No, I've been waiting for this. You'd expect this to be something quite special, wouldn't you?
Number 6 is quite good. It's called the Works.
Okay? The Works. Right.
So
he
basically,
gets all of it. He gets
he doesn't,
the lot.
he doesn't quite get all of it, but he does get to roll an extra 2 times. So
he gets 3 upgrades then.
So he gets 2 upgrades because the Works doesn't have an upgrade.
Oh,
so he just gets to roll twice more. So it means you could you know.
The only thing about it is it is random, right? So you could outfit a bunch of guys with Melta, right, and basically
roll rending,
and end up rolling rending and rolling toughness or something like that, you know, to their armor, which is not what you want.
Not particularly.
You know, you want range in there. You know, it's
well, there's none that are bad. There's no negative.
Only a 1.
There's no negative effects. Yeah. And even if you roll a 1, you're not going to lose out on your 35 points because just him with a las cannon is pretty good, or him being able to choose between those 3 weapons is pretty good.
And if you take 2 of them, you can never roll a 1.
True. Yeah. You can never roll a 1.
If you put 2 of them in the squad, you're absolutely guaranteed to get a buff of some part for 70 points. Okay.
Yeah. That's
okay. I like him.
He's pretty cool.
I have no idea what I'd replace him with, though.
I actually quite like the model, but having said that, I've replaced him with a squat.
Oh, a squat's a really good idea for that. Yeah.
Because he just kind of that engineer, kind of mechanical kind of thing, just seemed to sort of fit, you know, and it's still sort of staying outside the realms of going anything too Imperium.
So any kind of engineering alien or a squad or something like that could be a way to go. Might be worth looking into the Warpath range for a cool kind of Forge Father model or something that you could stick into there.
Definitely.
Okay. Right, what's next?
Next up we have the Crusader. The Crusader is quite... I think these models are awesome.
Oh, they are nice.
They just have 40k written all over these guys. Yeah. They are pretty good. Stats are kind of standard. Weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 3, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 3, attacks 1, leadership 8, with a 5+ save. However, they do have storm shields and power weapons.
Yeah.
So, not too bad. People used to use these quite a bit.
If you didn't have these guys, you could pick up a box of Grey Knights or something, though. Couldn't you? And stick them in, use them as those. But they are lovely looking models.
You can still get them direct from GW.
Yeah.
They are really cool figures. And yeah, it's hard to see past.
It is hard to see past how good they are.
That they have. But yeah, you could use Grey Knights, no problem. Again, that Storm Shield, giving them a 3+ invuln.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It kind of gives you a little bit of a buff to the unit. Put them out front, just use them as tanks. I think they're only 15 points each.
Cheaper than Space Marines.
So pretty handy.
Yeah.
Pretty handy to have. Now they're not the world's most amazing kind of...
Do they count as troops?
These count as elites.
Right.
So they don't get objective secured. But having said that, they're still pretty good.
Yeah.
Good for
But they could contest an objective, could they?
Easily, yeah. Everything in the game now can contest objectives. So it's
that 3+ invulnerable save would mean that they should be slightly harder to shift.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, I'm always kind of going that min-max thing. I know I shouldn't, but 15 of these guys at 15 points apiece.
It is hard. It is hard not to in 40k, particularly when they've all got power weapons as well. It is quite good. But these guys work quite well with the Death Cult Assassins as well. So the Death Cult Assassins, again, they have power weapons. They're weapon skill 5, ballistic skill 3, strength 4, toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 6, attacks 2, leadership 8, and 5+. So those guys are quite they're quite good. They come standard with 2 power weapons.
We have a picture of them, do we?
We don't, unfortunately.
Okay,
we don't.
right. So on what points are the Death Cult Assassins?
The Death Cult Assassins, I believe, are 15 as well.
Yeah.
So they're not expensive for what they do. That initiative 6 really gives you the edge. 15 points as well.
So if you picked up that, was it the Assassinorum box that came out of Workshop? There's a bunch of assassins in that.
Yeah.
You could use them. For that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's tons of models out there in other ranges, as you said, that kind of would fit that kind of
assassin kind
sort
of
the S&M type look to them. It's all lots of tight latex and things like that there. They're a great unit. The other one I'll talk about is the Mystic and the Psyker. The Mystic and the Psyker are kind of very similar.
Yeah.
The Mystic, however, kind of gives quite a strange little buff, and I've never quite found the way to use it. Basically, any unit that's deep striking within 6 inches gets to reroll the scatter.
Yeah.
I think it's reroll, or is it actually? Let me just check whether it's whether or not they need to roll a scatter. The Mystic. Yeah, sorry, my mistake. Doesn't scatter when the Mystic's in place. It's quite difficult to get that Mystic to where you want it to be, though. I've never quite mastered that one. If anyone has any ideas about that, that might be something to let us know about. But I've never quite found a way to kind of use that in game.
Yeah,
because it's quite difficult. It's just a standard. It's got a guardsman stats.
Yeah.
How do you get that guy to where you want him to be to bring in your
unit? Right. So so anybody that deep strikes doesn't scatter. But he has to be where they.
He has to be within 6 inches of.
So he's like a homing beacon of sorts.
Yeah.
And he's on foot.
He's on foot. Yeah.
You can't stick him on a bike or anything.
You can't. You can stick him in a transport. They have access to quite a few transports, but it still doesn't feel you know, it's very situational.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like you could build a sort of, you know, a unit around it.
You couldn't. You couldn't build a strategy around it.
No.
Yeah.
No. However, the Psyker, what I love about the Psyker is the Psyker is very similar, except he has a warp charge.
Yeah.
So immediately you are building in extra warp charges to your army for very, very cheap. He's only 10 points. One of my favorite things to do is to take the likes of Kotiaz, the Lord Inquisitor, who's warp charge 2. So building up your warp charge is quite quick. He's 100 points. He's quite worth it. And then build little squads of 3, 2 Acolytes, 4 points each, no upgrades, and a Psyker. For 18 points, you're getting an extra warp charge for your army.
Right.
So for 36, you know, just under 50 points.
Yeah.
You're now, or just over 50 points, you can build in
another
3 warp charge. You don't really care that they haven't got very good psychic ability.
You're only using them for the warp charge.
You're only using them to generate your warp charge points. Hide them somewhere backfield, maybe hold a home objective.
Yeah.
And there you have a way to build up your warp charge.
For 50 points, which is less than a character.
You know, really, really cheap. 40k I kind of price a warp charge at around 25 points.
Yeah,
so it's
if you
coming
can get
in
it for 18.
If you can get it for 18, that's a bargain.
Yeah.
In my book.
There we go.
Plus, it's another unit that your enemy's going to have to go, do I really want to waste a unit shooting on 3 guys that I know they'll kill?
Yeah.
But won't have any major effect on the game. You know? So it's quite, the Psyker's quite an interesting little unit there.
Is that them, or is there more?
There, let me see. That is them, actually, yeah.
Well.
Oh, sorry, my mistake. There is not. We have finally the Ministorum Priest as well.
Oh, he is badass.
He is so cool. Yeah. Again, you know, this is one of my favorite models. There used to be a whole ton of these guys, all based on the same torso. But in actual fact, that's one of the last ones that you can still get. But there's tons of priest-like models out there.
So what does he do?
This guy's cool. He's got pretty much got the stats of a standard guardsman. He's pretty much identical to the Ministorum Priest in the Guard Codex.
Yep.
But he's got a few extra upgrades. So I'll talk you through his stat line first of all. So weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 3, strength 3, toughness 3, wounds 1, initiative 3, attacks 2, leadership 7, and a 5+ save.
Yeah.
What he does have, however, is he gets those benefits that the Imperial Guard, the Astra Militarum guy gets, which is the Emperor protects. If he passes a leadership test, the Ministorum Priest and his unit reroll all field armor and invulnerable saves until the end of the phase.
Right. Okay.
So that's pretty good. These are all in combat as well.
Yeah.
Then next up, he has the Emperor's Strength. He can cause a smash attack. Now, smash attack is basically where he reduces his amount of attacks to 1, and he gets double strength, AP2 attack. Not that great, but useful in a, you know, if he physically can't,
situational again, isn't it?
If he physically can't harm the unit he's up against, and he doesn't need any of the other ones, it's handy to have. And then the last one is the Righteousness of the Emperor. The Ministorum Priest and his unit reroll failed rolls to wound until the end of the phase. So that's pretty good.
That is pretty good, yeah.
This guy's he's pretty cool. He can upgrade 5 points from melted bombs. He can also take power weapon for 15, plasma gun or plasma pistol for 15, combi weapons for 10 points, storm bolter for 5. But he can also take the Eviscerator. And I think whenever you've got a chance to take an Eviscerator on
you've got to take an Eviscerator.
You've got to take an Eviscerator. You know, really cool unit, 25 points. And he can really buff that whole squad into something that is, you know, kind of a potential lethal combat unit.
Yeah.
Again, he's got the Zealot special rule. So whenever he does charge into combat, he's getting that hatred as well. So it rerolls to hit in the first round of combat.
Well, the question is, right? Knowing now what I know, all I see is options, and it's so fluff-wise for something that is just really totally out there. I've got to say, I'm still hankering after my Van Helsing Inquisitor and his Daemonhosts in the back of the van. He just opens the van and out they go, and you just do all this random carnage and chaos all over the place. I think that could be hilarious on the tabletop. I look at that and I think it's so fluffy. You know, that all his passion is building up a collection of these trapped demons, and he just unleashes them.
What about this? If you had an ally, maybe you're allied with the Marine Army. What about taking a drop pod for them?
Oh, could you do that?
Just sticking 10 Daemonhosts. 12.
Whop! And out they spill.
I don't know how good it would be, but it'd be a lot of fun anyway.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. The other one then is looking at the shooting potential of this. And I quite like the idea of, instead of using the servitors and the Jakara, as we've discussed this, I love the idea of a load of squats with weapons, big heavy weapons. Yeah. And then a squat engineer there to confer the buff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So it could be an Inquisitor and his little squat henchmen running around doing stuff. I think that also would be kind of cool. You know, what kind of transport options do they get?
The brilliant thing is they get loads of transport options. They pretty much get Rhino, Razorback, Chimera, Valkyrie, Land Raider, Crusader, Land Raider, Godhammer pattern, or the Land Raider Redeemer. So they pretty much have all the Imperial transports available to them.
And can they go running like a Storm Raven or something like that?
They don't have access to a Storm Raven, but they've got access to the Valkyrie.
Yeah. The difference is you could assault out of a Storm Raven, but it wouldn't matter.
Well, you could ally one in.
Yeah, but it wouldn't matter anyway. I see these guys as really coming into their own when you've one really awesome transport. Well, they all kind of zoom around in.
The Land Raider Crusader would allow you to put 16.
You just put
so you can put the whole squad and the Inquisitor and just
paint it up beautiful. Because let's be honest, this is a once in a lifetime squad, right? That you're gonna do.
Yeah.
You can take your time with it. You can go out and pick the best models.
What about your A-team? You've got your A-team van, and then you got your A-team squad.
You could do anything you want with this, but the beauty of it is, it's just sitting there, looking beautiful on your shelf. And anytime you think you want something a bit different, you know, you just pick that off the shelf and say, right, I'm going to rock the Inquisitors today, and throw them out. I just think that's awesome. And then finally, to use it as it was meant to be used, this kind of hodgepodge of different guys with different skills, all under the command of an Inquisitor. You know, what's not to like? That's like Firefly, isn't it? You know, it has that kind of outer rim kind of feel to it. You know, these guys are just there and they're coming in to get the business done, and out they go. What an awesome unit when you think about it.
Such a cool squad, and that's why I wanted to really talk about it today, because it's one that just allows you to do whatever you want. It's kind of the real Swiss Army knife of units, you know. It's brilliant fun as well, as you said. And
I want one. I just haven't decided what it is, but hopefully in some of our future battle reports, I'm going to rock out one of these.
I think we'll be getting a limousine.
I think it'll have to be a limo of some sort. AJ, look, thank you very much for that. Guys, as always, post your comments below. I'd love to get your insight into the whole Inquisitorial Henchmen thing. You know, what have you used? What alternative kind of models and sculpts have you used? And what strategies and tactics have you thought of for them? Because I'm just blown away by this. I think they're fabulous. Right? We will see you in the next edition of 40K Charted. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Right, so we have a few links up to help you out.
Check out the playlist. We also have a subscribe option, and remember, if you subscribe, to click the bell to ding our dong. Finally, if you're into binge watching and you want a whole lot more 40k Charted, come on over to beastsofwar.com, join Backstage, and you get early access to all of the seasons.